This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. One of the things I've been trying to make sure I do this off season, right? Because it's really easy to get dragged into cynicism, is appreciating things while understanding that they don't mean everything, right? I think we tend to have an issue with this. Especially now that we're in a completely like social media driven world where small things get turned into big things very often, and big things get turned into small things. There is usually a tendency for people to be like, oh, look at this one thing. It's a small thing that's better, and then extrapolate a million things from it, right? And I think it's important to appreciate those things. Acknowledge that they're not nothing. They are something, and it's okay that it does make you feel better, but also respecting that just because it does make you feel a little better doesn't mean that it's going to be the solution to all your problems, right? One of those things that have emerged for the Browns this year is the contrast of Kevin Stefanski and Todd Monken in a lot of different ways, most notably in their press conferences, also in general demeanor, right? And this usually happens when you fire a coach. Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchens were very different from Kevin Stefanski, right? Those were guys who were more willing to leak to the media, more willing to talk and cared about their ego. Kevin was a completely different beast, really quiet, didn't care about how people felt about him, wasn't going to talk to the media, wasn't going to be interesting in any kind of way off the field. And then you get rid of Kevin, and then you move on to Todd Monken, right? And one of the sources of frustration for some Browns fans, not necessarily me, if I'm being truly honest here, I never really cared about this, but for some Browns fans became Kevin Stefanski's press conferences because the Browns would lose a lot. And when you lose a lot, you say the same things over and over again. And when people hear those things and they associate it with losing, they hate the things that you're saying, regardless of if it makes sense or not in a vacuum, right? Hugh Jackson got killed for telling people he was going to go watch the tape, right? That's a meme to this day about Hugh Jackson. But in a vacuum, it doesn't sound crazy that a head coach wants to watch some tape before he makes a larger comment on players. It's actually like fine process there. The reason it bothered Browns fans isn't because of what Hugh was saying. It's the context of that happening every time the Browns lose, which when Hugh was the head coach was very often. So the phrase, I got to watch the tape, became heavily associated with losing football games, right? The same thing happened with Kevin Stefanski. We didn't really care about those press conferences in 2020. We didn't really care about those press conferences in 2023. We only started to care about those press conferences when the losses started to stack up. And now some of the stuff he's saying after losses becomes a lot more notable because you're hearing them more often. And then, bam, they become associated with losing. Todd Monken is not immune to the same thing, right? If the Browns lose a bunch of games, you're going to start to associate some of the things that Todd goes to after losses with losing, regardless of if those things in a vacuum make sense or not. And you're going to hate Todd Monken's press conferences all of a sudden, right? We all are aware that that's a thing. I don't bring that up to bum you out about being excited about Todd Monken's press conferences, just pointing out the obvious limitations of the excitement about something like this. But I do think it does mean something that we're not just hearing from the local media about how refreshing and how much of a breath of fresh air that Todd's press conferences has been, but we're also hearing it from the national media. Here's Rich Eisen on the Rich Eisen Show talking about Todd Monken's press conferences.
New head coach Todd Monken had a lot to say yesterday. I kind of dig his forthrightness.
He is
right?
very direct.
If the Browns win, this guy's going to be like, hey, I know none of y'all really wanted me here as the head coach.
Right.
Y'all had other ideas. And The defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, had other ideas, and he's just like, I'm out of here. I'm not sticking around here. I'm not being the DC for someone else when you passed me over. And Todd Monken's now coming in from Baltimore. And one of the first things that we heard was when he welcomed in Shedeur Sanders to his office and made it seem like, hey, we had our eye on you there in Baltimore, and he really likes him a lot. And I've been saying from this chair, this is Deshaun Watson's gig. I mean, they put so much money and treasure and blood, sweat, and tears into hoping for the best from him and for him, and haven't really received very much, that they got one more year left of finding out what he's got. They're gonna use that. Unless Shedeur just keeps on blowing up. And he had nothing but glowing things to say about Shedeur Sanders.
I shouldn't say surprised. I think more people would be surprised. Deshaun's athleticism shows up. Obviously, he's had that, but he's had his injuries that have set him back. So, but that's been, I wouldn't say a surprise, but it's exciting to see. It's a weapon for him. It's one of his superpowers is athleticism. And I think Shedeur's come miles in terms of his progressions, getting the ball out, his understanding of concepts. I think he's really, really come a long way.
Well, is he talking to the Miz? Is that what or did the Miz take over
special assistant
Coach Monken's body? Did he,
head coach? Got to believe, man.
I don't know. Shedeur is definitely the fan favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, if Browns fans could have their druthers and say one is going to be the quarterback of your future because he's that good, they'd choose Shedeur Sanders in a heartbeat.
Yeah, no doubt. You're right.
So that's, I mean, he was answering a question about Deshaun Watson and then transitioned himself to Shedeur Sanders, which, I keep talking about storylines and what stories would happen if that.
Yeah, so one of the things that I think he has done much better than Kevin too, right? And this is beyond just like press conferences. He has handled the media environment around Shedeur much better, and even around Deshaun much better, right? Kevin had to deal with the Deshaun thing at the height of the Deshaun media circus. He also dealt with the Shedeur thing at the height of the Shedeur media circus. And Kevin would be so non-committal, so unwilling or not willing to make any kind of a thing that could be interpreted as a statement, that he ended up being too vague. And that vagueness led to people using his words as sources of misinformation, which let these kind of controversies become a life of their own, will get a life of their own, right? And these things kind of consumed Kevin Stefanski at the end, right? The everything about how he handled the quarterback situation, which I don't think if we look at what he actually did was that bad, but how it was be able to be portrayed by so many national media outlets because of his inability to give basic information, right? Like it took us 10 weeks to figure out or to find out that Kevin was doing like basically extended rookie camps during the season to get these guys up to par, right? Which, if you look at the performance of the rookie class, even the guys on offense, you have to imagine that was helpful, that was a good thing that they did last year. But we didn't find out about it because Kevin didn't want nobody to know until way late in the year. You know what I mean? These are the things that Kevin kind of struggled with, is managing the PR battle because he thought he could opt out of it, right? He thought he did not have to play that game. But everybody has to play that game on some level. And when he did have to play that game, he wasn't equipped to because it wasn't a game he prepared himself for. Todd is much more prepared for that, right? First day he comes in, he makes sure that it doesn't look like he has anything against Shedeur, right? Because that's the whole perception. Everybody thinks that, everybody's lining up against Shedeur. He makes that very clear that he doesn't have anything against him, which means when these reports come out that the Browns are favoring Deshaun Watson over Shedeur, you notice that it's not the same level of, they're conspiring against him. He hates Shedeur so much that he's not going to play him. That's not what we're getting, right? It didn't have to be that way last year. So that's one of the elements where I'm like, I don't know how much of an effect that's going to have on the field, right? But his ability to handle that is much better than what it was with Kevin. We're going to talk more about this clip from Rich Eisen, but first I got to thank my sponsor, PrizePicks. Hey, let me talk to you about my sponsor for this year, PrizePicks. It's a fun way to win cash while you're watching your favorite teams. Forget complex betting rules. Their app is designed to be incredibly easy to use. Just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Speaking of, here are my picks for this upcoming NFL season. They have Myles Garrett at 14 sacks here. I think he will get more than 14 sacks. Joe Burrow at 3,875 passing yards. I think he'll be a 4,000-yard passer. I'm going to go with more. They have Derrick Henry at 1,224 yards. I'm going to go less than that. Check to see if PrizePicks is available in your state. You can follow me on the app at KWEN_C to see all of my lineups. Download the PrizePicks app today. Play $5 and get $50 in lineups when you download the app using the link in the description.
Kid can blossom and be the quarterback for the Browns now and in the future for this coach, and it all works out. Browns fans are like, yeah, okay, I got you. Nothing ever works out for us. I hear you. Who knows? He could be the difference maker.
Who knows? Who knows?
That's exciting. That said, a couple minutes later, we found out there were a ton of interceptions in practice.
Yeah, yeah. But we don't know by whom.
It was the next question?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, no one ever really said.
After that answer, this is what happened.
The defense was able to have a couple heads-up picks, knock the ball out a couple times. Did you like their aggression in this session today?
Yeah. I mean, we threw interceptions in 7-on-7, for God's sakes. I mean, who does that? There's no pass rush. I mean, it's embarrassing.
This guy's my new favorite coach in the league. It's just like,
On one hand, oh, man, Deshaun Watson, I'm not surprised that he's athletic. I mean, it's one of his superpowers. But you know who's come miles with his progressions and everything is Shedeur Sanders. Hey, Coach, you like the defense? And play one more time. This is great. Oh, then on the next hand, Coach hit it.
The defense was able to have a couple heads-up picks, knock the ball out a couple times. Did you like their aggression in this session today?
Yeah. I mean, we threw interceptions in 7-on-7, for God's sakes. I mean, who does that? There's no pass rush. I mean, it's embarrassing.
What else you want to know?
That is interesting, right? Like, look, he will play the game. He will make sure that people don't have a perception of him that his criticism isn't coming from a nefarious place, which ended up being a problem for Kevin Stefanski, right? So when he does say something like that, where he's like, hey, man, we're looking bad. We're throwing interceptions in 7-on-7s. Now, the only quarterbacks who have thrown interceptions in 7-on-7s, from what I could tell so far, has been Shedeur and Dylan and probably Taylor Green. I don't know how many 7-on-7 reps Taylor Green is getting, but I would be pretty confident he threw some interceptions in 7-on-7s, right? The younger quarterbacks are throwing those interceptions. There's been a lot of discourse about 7-on-7 interceptions over the last couple of days here. And this kind of reminds me of like the practice stats conversation last year. Ultimately, they're going to make their decision based on what they think of the progress that these players are making. But I think Todd's setting it pretty clearly that the standard is that you don't throw interceptions on 7-on-7s. And Todd probably has that standard for a good reason, right? Like, I don't remember, and because we're Browns fans, right, we've never really experienced an elite quarterback in our team that we get to like diagnose this closely. But yeah, in 7-on-7s, usually, good quarterbacks aren't throwing interceptions, right? Maybe in team drills, quarterbacks throw interceptions, because I know people have made the point that like Tom Brady threw interceptions in practice and Aaron Rodgers threw interceptions in practice, but that's a completely different beast. Because one, those are probably 11-on-11 interceptions, which are more acceptable. There's a pass rush there. Two, if you're Tom Brady, if you're Aaron Rodgers, if you are the unquestioned starter of the football team, you don't have to worry about somebody breathing down your neck, which means you get some room to experiment when you're trying stuff in practice. When you're in a quarterback competition, you don't have that room to experiment. You just have to execute. So throwing the interception is something that you could be judged for when you're in a quarterback competition. But when you're Tom Brady in year 10, you could throw as many interceptions as you want in practice because you're Tom Brady. You're not getting benched anytime soon. So even like people trying to compare it to that, which again, comparing this quarterback room to anything that Tom Brady or Peyton Manning has done, it's just ridiculous at this point. We're very much not in that situation right now at quarterback. But yeah, I mean, like if Todd's saying that that's not acceptable that we're throwing interceptions in 7-on-7, I assume that's coming from a place of information, right? Since he seems to be a very informative person. Or maybe it's coming from a place of motivation. Maybe he's trying to motivate these guys, right? He's going to give you some sugar. He's also going to give you something to work on. And I think that's kind of the strategy there. He says publicly about Shedeur, he's made some great steps. But also something that Shedor's probably going to, take as a comment on himself, which, I don't think it's bad to say that, hey, look, we shouldn't be throwing interceptions in 7-on-7s. So I'll give you something good. I'll give you something bad. Work on the bad. Keep getting better at the thing that I'm praising you at. It's kind of just the way that he's going about it. I don't think it should be that controversial. But it is nice to not feel like I have to decipher the Da Vinci Code to figure out how Todd Monken feels about things. With Kevin Stefanski, it felt like I had to do the Da Vinci Code. I had to learn how to speak an alien language just to figure out where Kevin is, because Kevin spoke in, anti-media jujitsu. He just would just not talk to the media, not try to say anything. So it is nice. I do think it's a nice change of pace. It's certainly better for me as a content creator, if I'm being transparent here, right? But also, and I think it can lead to better instruction for these players where things are more clear. And I think a change of voice might be what this team needed on the offensive side of the ball. So I do think that can benefit the team. Also just while keeping that positivity there, that optimism there, understanding that, it's also going to be really contingent how much this matters on how much Todd Monken's able to create success on the football field. So it's nice that the press conferences are good. In order for this to have a long-lasting impact, the execution has to be there as well. But that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.